Hey folks, Sean here, and in this episode I want to talk to you about what to do when you have unhappy customers, reporting issues, or have some other type of question related to that about your B2B SaaS. So my podcasting application, podcast show notes, is growing to the extent now where we're getting quite a bit more customers on a daily basis. And so far, everything's worked out pretty well, which is great. I've continued to develop the roadmap with feedback from our users, and most users have been reporting a lot of satisfaction and value that they're getting out of the product. So that's all great. But what I want to talk to you about today is what to do when things aren't going great for some of your users and you're getting feedback and it's not as constructive. Now, first thing I want you to do is not to panic because this is totally normal. You're going to have people who either wind up finding your product or are using your product who's really not a fit for, whether or not they're in your target market or just personally they've got something and they don't love about it. It really doesn't matter. Either way, this is totally normal. So first things first, don't panic. Beyond that, the next step is really figuring out what's going on in this particular situation. And I'll give you an example that I just handled for. Now, there was a user, they looked like they had started a free trial with my product, which is offered for a certain amount of time or capacity because we have our costs are connected to our usage for our product. And then they converted to the highest paying tier, which looked like, they were seeing value and everything was going well. Then I got an email shortly after said transaction, which is always a potential telltale sign in that it almost felt like a state of panic, as in like, oh no, I almost like accidentally purchased and didn't get what I was looking for. Can I get my money back? And I want to cancel. Now, when I see things like this, much like the other recommendations that I have regarding your support channel, I'm big on let's see what we can't learn from the users in terms of them reporting feedback to see if there's anything we can do to improve the situation or our product. So regardless of what the feedback is like how destructive it may be or not constructive, so to speak, I'll ask that question. And in this case, when I asked, I didn't really get a ton of great substance or feedback, but instead just they wanted to continue through with cancellation and refund. Now, in your situation, you can manage this on a case by case basis. If somebody just paid and they went out right away, they haven't really used the products. You probably haven't consumed a ton of expense on your end. So just for the goodwill alone, it may make the most sense to just cancel them right away, give them their money back. Obviously, the judgment is up to you, but in the event it doesn't cost you much, that's typically what I would do. Now, if they have signed up for your product, paid for your product, and they're there at the end of the month, or they have consumed everything for that month and they want their money back, that's a different situation. So I would probably push back there, but that wasn't what happened here. This was like an immediate thing. So I tried to get some feedback, didn't really get a lot that was constructive, and instead I just said, fine, no worries. I'll give you your money back and we'll cancel you right away. But what I didn't tell them, but is something that I'm going to do, is that I don't want that person signing up again. It's like, whatever's going on, number one, I didn't get constructive feedback from you. So you didn't really tell me why my product doesn't work for you. And that to me points more towards you than it does the product. Number two, you were probably more of a rash decision maker than I really want using my product overall. Because the slogan or the phrase of the customer is always right, that is 100% wrong. Right? Like you get to decide who your product is for and it's not, as well as the customers in your market. So if you get anyone in there like being abusive towards you or your team or whatever, I don't tolerate any of that kind of stuff. So, if you're not following our guidelines and playing by those rules, we reserve the right to boot you off the system, in a moment's notice. Now that wasn't the case here. They were very respectful, which is great, but I see the potential here to kind of go down that road. But either way, since, there's money incurred to try to attract them to our product and convert them and all that, and they canceled right away after seemingly having committed to that or made that decision. I don't want to go through that again. So I'm going to make sure that we don't extend access to that person moving forward. But beyond that, the point to take away from this really is this stuff is normal, it's going to happen, and I wanted to share with you some guidelines in terms of how you can manage it to see what you can potentially learn from it, and then how to ultimately handle it to bring it to some form of a clear resolution so that you can both just keep moving.